Go ahead, Janet.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. I am not sure if all of you are hailing from the Chicago area. That's where Emily and I are. So welcome to this version of Chicago. I know that there will be potentially quite a few people in the room today, and I cannot see all of you. So I would love if you can unmute yourself and interrupt, or raise your hand and interrupt if you have sort of pressing questions that you need me to flip back a slide and re-explain something or anything like that. Please feel free to interrupt. I told Emily I was a high school teacher for a lot of years and a parent of 3. So I'm used to interruptions. I'm not used to reading a chat box while I'm talking. So let's dig in. So today we're talking about technology and fundraising. So some low cost or free tools you can use that might help with your fundraising. So I'd be interested to know, do you all feel like you use a lot of technology, or and you can put this in the chat. Are you a tech savvy, you do everything on technology and you can't live without it? Or are you a technophobe, like you don't want technology and you're sitting in this webinar as a kind of in resistance to technology, and you like old school? So if anybody has any response to that, you can certainly put that in the chat. Be interesting to see who we have in the room. Okay, so one person says they use some technology, but probably use poor tools and use them less than to their potential. That was Benjamin. Katie says you use technology all the time, definitely not to full capacity. Lisa is tech savvy, but is interested in specifically using it for fundraising. We do use technology, never used it for fundraising. Okay, so let's see where what we can do for all of you. When you have a webinar like this that is general, there's going to be a whole mix of people in the room. So some things might feel like, yeah, we've been there, done that, we use that, this is nothing new. Hopefully everyone will walk away with at least one thing that was like, oh, that's good, I can use that today or tomorrow and get started and really walk away with something. Okay, so let's dig in. Thank you for those responses. So first of all, who am I and why am I doing this webinar? I am, like Emily said, I'm Janet Cobb, and I have been in the nonprofit arena my entire life, literally. And I started working as a consultant coach, facilitator, about a decade ago. And in that time, I have worked with over 700 nonprofits now. I see I didn't update this particular slide. I've worked with over 700 small to early stage, small to mid-sized nonprofits, helping them to, grow their fundraising. And, I say that some people in the arenas I turn in call me the small nonprofit whisperer, because I can really work with the smaller nonprofits to help them figure out how they can grow given their capacity. All right, so that's me, and that's why I'm here today, I guess. So what are we talking about when we're talking about technology? I like to think of it as what's your digital footprint? Where are you in cyberspace, right? You might all have a physical space, or you might be working remotely but have a place you do programs, right? There's the real world, and then there's the cyber world, there's the digital world. And where you show up online leaves a trail, through various channels. And so the things we want to think about first and foremost are the highlighted items here are what we're really going to sort of dig into today. What does your website look like and do, and in the world of fundraising, what role does it play? The charity watchdog sites and review sites like Google and Yelp and those things, what are they showing and saying to anybody who might come across you? Your social media profiles and how you use them, and whether or not you should use them. Are they worth it? Any news articles that mention your organization, like what are other people saying about you? That's part of your digital footprint, because nothing goes away online, right? So we're going to be looking at all of that. Any online forums that are out there, your digital ad campaigns, if any of you do paid advertising online, what does that look like, and is it worth it? Third-party posts, do other people talk about you on social media? Whether those be your partners, people that you work with, anything like that. Blog posts, and what you put out, your email newsletters and those sorts of things, and how we use those, and if they're beneficial. All right, so that's sort of an overview of what we're talking about today. So let's first think about our website. And the number one thing when it comes to fundraising in your website is the question, how easy is it for me to give you my money? If I go to your website, is it very clear that I can give you money? And is it very quick and easy? Because if it is not, you're not going to get my money. Mr. Donor, Mrs. Donor, Ms. Donor are busy people. We're busy. We want to, impulsively, do a good thing, and then we want to move on. So if you can, if you're tech savvy enough to put this webinar up and go to your website at the same time and look at your website and find your donate button, does your donate button go straight to the place where I can give you my money? Or does it go to another page to explain all the 7 different ways that I could support you? And inside there is another donate button that will take me somewhere to then, right? Like I think often of the old, I don't know how old people in this room are, but the old Tootsie Roll commercial where the kid asks, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop? And the owl, eventually the wise old owl says 1, 2, 3, and cracks into the Tootsie Roll Pop. How many clicks does it take for me to give you my money? And remember, most people live on their phones now. They do things on their phones, not on their computers. So how far do I have to scroll to find that donate button? If the donate button's at the bottom of the page, you've lost me, because I've had to scroll too far. I've had to scroll through your mission and your history and your programs and whatever's happening yesterday, today, and tomorrow, right? Get your donate button at the top of the page. Make sure that you are looking at it on phones. Look at it on an Android phone. Look at it on an iPhone, because it can show up differently, and make sure that it's very easy and clear. So that's step 1. That's the fundamental, most basic thing, and it does make a difference. And of course, do you have a donate button? Right? That's, I guess, question number 1. Do you have a donate button? And then does the donate button lead to an experience of I'm being generous in making a donation, or does it lead to a shopping cart experience? If you're using PayPal, if you're using even Squarespace, if you're using those types of functionalities, Square, they all allow for donations now. But from a donor perspective, I feel like I'm shopping. And so that keeps it as a very transactional encounter for me. And so what you want to think about is, what are you using to invite people to give generously that's going to make them feel less like it's still a transaction. We can't get away from that. It's a transaction. You're putting in your credit card information or your banking information or whatever. But what does it feel like? And does it say donate or give, or does it say purchase? Or, so look at the details, look at how it looks on the different screens, right? And then decide if you have the best tool right now to facilitate the beginning of a donor relationship. Okay, so we'll dig into how to fix that in a bit. I want to focus a little bit more on the content of your website. Does your website tell me your mission and vision? You'd be surprised when I look at nonprofit websites sometimes how difficult it is to know exactly what they do. So look at your website. Is it very clear what your mission is? What problem is being addressed, right? What are your core values? Who's the audience? Both who's the audience for the people you serve, and who's the audience for people you want to engage with you? Do you work heavily with volunteers? Is that very clear, right? How can I get involved, right? And what makes you different from other organizations who do similar things? And you're not saying, we're not like Joe Schmo down the street. You're just making sure you're very clear on what makes you you and why you have to exist right now. And I'm very blunt with people when I say, if I asked you right now, if we stopped sharing the screen and I brought everybody up and I asked everybody to turn on their cameras and I said to you, please tell us right now why your nonprofit has to exist or the world would be drastically less good. If you can't really very clearly tell me that, please close your doors. Right? Close your doors. And if you can't tell me how you're different from the other organization in the next city over or down the street or 2 states over, if you can't tell me what you do and how you do it and why you do it isn't different from every other organization in this country, then talk to them about merging. We're collaborating, right? Because we don't need to duplicate things that are exactly the same, right? So you've got to be very clear on those, and that has to show up on your website somewhere. Because let's say I am a person who discovers that my mother has multiple sclerosis, and I go to Google nonprofit organizations working with people who have multiple sclerosis. How many million websites are going to show up? And I'm going to pick some to look at. I need to know these things very quickly to decide whether or not I want to stay on your website and learn more about you and get involved with you. Right? Because if I just Google multiple sclerosis, there will be cures for multiple sclerosis, research around multiple sclerosis, people who give gift baskets to people living with multiple sclerosis, people who have support groups, people who are making sure people have the medical equipment they need. There are advocacy groups for research, right? That's 7 different reasons why a nonprofit exists. And I, as the person looking, need to know what I'm looking at, right? So the more clear you can be very early on in my website search, right, in my review of your website, the better that is. Okay? So, do you have these things front and center so that whoever lands on your website knows clearly what they're looking at? And if you don't have a mission and a vision and know the difference between those two and have them very clearly, then please do a vision, mission, clarity exercise as soon as possible and get that sorted out, because people are attracted to the vision and the mission and the core values, right? Lots of people do the problem, right? But your vision, your mission, and your core values are critical to attracting the people who care about the same thing. So I'd like to give you an example around the area of homelessness and hunger. There is an organization locally that I work with whose mission is to serve the hungry and homeless. They are not trying to solve homelessness. They are not trying to solve hunger. They are simply here to serve those who are hungry and those who are homeless. There's another organization a few blocks away that is working on affordable housing and who's working on advocacy and who's working to change laws and who are doing all of those other things. Then there's another organization that is working on finding social services for people who are homeless, finding mental health services, finding drug addiction services, right? Those are three different organizations that serve the exact same geographic region very, very differently, right? So if I care about solving the problem of homelessness, I might not want to work with the people who are simply serving and serving them, right? It's a great thing. It's just not my thing, right? So think through that when you're thinking about how you present who you are and what you do on your website. Okay? All right. Then you want to make sure that your content is clear, that your links work, that it's current, and that it's well organized. This seems like a no-brainer, but believe me, I mean, I know even on my website, someone said, "Oh, I looked at your calendar," and I'm like, "Oh, no, I haven't updated my calendar." And so, right? It happens, right? So you want to make sure that if I go to your website, I'm not looking at an event that took place 6 months ago, selling me tickets for an event that took place 6 months ago, right? Or that the last post or the last update was done so long ago that nothing is valid. You want to be looking at who are your board members? Are they listed? You know, is it the current board? You know, all of those things. You want to make sure that it is visually attractive, that it's one of the more modern websites. It is astounding how many nonprofits work with very, very antiquated websites. And the reality is, now I know there are marketing companies whose business is to update websites, and they have every right to charge what they want. But you can update your website for virtually almost nothing and have a very good, modern, you know, current, non-antiquated website for not that much money. Okay. So don't think you need $30,000 to update your website. All right, there are far cheaper ways, and really in today's world, you can manage a lot of your own website. There are very few nonprofits that I've worked with that are so complex and so whatever that they need, you know, a multi-million-dollar company to be managing this for them. And if you can't update your own content, if every time you need something changed on your website, you have to contact someone who has 95 other clients to do it, that's slowing down everything for you. So you want to reconsider that, okay? Make sure that you have headers and buttons and clean navigation, all of that. Now, the place where you might get stuck and the place where it might be good to spend a little money to get someone to do it well for you is the SEO, search engine optimization. These are the words that need to go into not only the front-facing content of your website, but the back end of your website to make it show up in Google searches. Okay? There is all kinds of, to me, what I consider kind of nonsense around this, but it's the way that Google and all these other search engines work. So it's hard to figure out yourself. You can, but it's time consuming. Find someone, an independent marketing person who can update your SEO for, a reasonable price and get that going. Because if you don't have your SEO in good shape, it's going to be really hard for people to find you unless they know the exact name of your organization and possibly even the URL, because so many nonprofits have similar names to other nonprofits, etc. Okay, so that is where the SEO is where I might spend a little bit of money to get it clean and good and fixed. Okay. Then make sure that on your website, you have staff and board bios and photos. Now, the question of photos is difficult because people, I don't like my photo. I don't want to be online. But the reality is it makes you human. It makes you human, and people like humans. People want to engage with people. People give money to people. It's all about people. So if all you have is a list of your board members and a list of your staff members, it's not as inviting and engaging as if you have bios and photos and pictures of your dog or whatever, right? People want to know people. And in all honesty as well, it helps people to know part of your value system. How representative are you of the population you serve, right? And photos tell that story immediately, right? So you need staff and board bios and photos. If you have volunteers, and of course, hopefully you have donors, you want somewhere on there for them to be able to share their experience. Do you have photos of volunteers? Do you have testimonials from donors? Somewhere do you have something where people who aren't paid staff people are saying good things about you and talking about what it means to engage with you as an organization? Somewhere do you have a transparency section, okay? And this means the outcomes, not just the outputs, but so the outputs, the outcomes of the work that you do. So how many people have been served is an output, right? Outcomes are what's the transformation that has happened in these people's lives because of the service that you provide. And this is true not only of social service organizations, this is true of, performing arts and, lobbying, all kinds of organizations. Every kind of organization has to have an outcome, otherwise you shouldn't exist, right? And outputs are sort of data and numbers and calculations, but it tells nothing about the difference that has been made in the world or in the lives of the people being served. That's an outcome. So you want outputs and you want outcomes. You want your plans. Do you have a strategic plan? It should be at least the high level goals, and your strategy should be there somewhere. Your board meeting minutes, your bylaws, all of those things should be out there. Your conflict of interest policies, your gift acceptance policies, your thank you policies, all your policies. You can have a transparency section where all of that is shared. Any goals you have, program goals, fundraising goals. Well, maybe fundraising goals are different unless you've made sure that your fundraising goals are realistic. Please don't put them out there. We want to raise $70 million. Okay, how much have you raised? 7,000. Okay, that's not realistic then, right? So if you have clear strategic plans, strategic goals, fundraising objectives that tie to a good, strong case for support, then make that clear. Put all of that out there. And stories. You have to have stories. Stories from people who are part of your program, stories from the founder, stories from board members, donors, volunteers, stories. Stories is what make people connect to an organization, because people like people. Okay. Come on. Okay. Then have you looked at your website for your voice? Do you have a consistent kind of theme? Does your website sound like a robot, or does it sound like a human being? Right? Take out all the jargon and the buzzwords. People don't know jargon. People don't know buzzwords. In the fundraising world, your copy, your fundraising stories, your newsletters, your appeal letters, especially, any kind of ask for money, all of that should be written at about the 4th grade level, 4th grade reading level. Newspapers are at the 6th grade reading level. Magazines are at the 8th grade reading level. Journals are at the high school reading level, unless you're really into very specific journals, right? But like literary journals, those sorts of things. Fundraising, 4th grade or lower, ideally. Okay. All right. So you will get this PowerPoint as long as Emily agrees to send it to you. I mean, you could let me know and I'll send it to you, but there is a link here. This is a person that I follow. Oops. pixellighthouse.com. This is a marketing person who creates a lot of content helping nonprofits to take a look at their website. This is a downloadable 35 examples, and it's in a template. Okay, so take a look at that. All right. Then once you're sure your website's good and ready to go, or while one person is doing that, someone else needs to be focusing on online fundraising portals and CRMs. So I'd love to know, either by raising your hand or unmuting and saying, we have one, or in the chat, how many of you are using a CRM? I probably could have created a poll. Sorry, I didn't. Let's just be human here. How many of you have a CRM or a donor management system, a content manager system? Okay, so we've got some folks with those. All right. I'm trying to see the chat. There we go. Okay. Oh, what is a CRM? Is a customer relation management tool or a donor management system. So you might have heard, and that's what we're going to dig into. So some of you are looking for a free or an expensive one. Someone uses Little Green Light. Someone uses Blackbaud. Someone uses Donor Perfect. So the person who uses Blackbaud, I imagine you're a very big organization then. That's a very robust and complicated and complex system, but there are lots that are far simpler. So let's take a look at what some of those are. So you see Blackbaud is here. Someone said, little green light I don't have on here. There are hundreds and hundreds of these things, right? If not thousands. So a customer relations or donor management system is the place where you can start keeping all of your donor data and profiles for your donors, and you get reports and statistics and analytics, and some have communication tools with them and other things like that. So there are free ones. GiveButter is free. DonorDoc, I believe, for the very smallest organizations are free. If not, they're very, very inexpensive. Keel is on the less expensive side. I just learned of a new one a few days ago, actually, Zephy. Oh, there's little green light. LGL is little green light with the light bulb. Okay. Little green light is very inexpensive. What you want to do if you're thinking about a donor management system is you want to take a look at exactly what you need. You need an online giving page. You need a place to track all of your donors. Do you use volunteers? Then you need a volunteer. You might look at a volunteer management module. Do you want to email people within the system? Then you're looking for something along those lines. Do they have events? Do they have auctions? Do they have text messaging? Do they have video? You create a spreadsheet of all the things you want from your donor management system. You calculate those by must have, would be nice to have, and in a perfect world, right? Must have, would be nice to have, and in a perfect world. And then you call a couple of these folks and you get demos and you say, which one, do you do these things? And then you give them a rating. They do it well, they say they do it, but it doesn't look like they really do it, and they, don't do it at all. And then that's how you pick your donor management system. And of course, the cost. But like I said, GiveButter is free. DonorDoc is really inexpensive. It's based on number of users, not number of contacts. Zephy is completely free. It does not even have processing fees. They take care of the processing fees as well. Okay, so take a look at these. Someone uses Blackbaud. Blackbaud is sort of the bigger, higher end, complex. A lot of universities and hospitals and things tend to use Blackbaud. There's Razor's Edge, Bloomerang, and Bonterra's. I don't know. Bonterra is a company now that has all kinds of different software packages. Their simplest one for the smallest organizations is called Network for Good. And that is comparable in what it can do to products like Bloomerang and Virtuous. I think Virtuous has more in the world of volunteer management. Neon One is comparable, right? Donor Perfect, I believe, doesn't have as much functionality around communications. It doesn't have that same integration. Little Green Light has been improving in that, right? So you really got to take a look at these. In full disclosure, I've been working for years with Network for Good, which is now a Bonterra product, but that doesn't mean it's good for everybody, right? You got to figure out what's going to be good for you. So again, online giving, email functionality, if you want that, which I recommend to get integrated somehow, whether it's their own or it integrates with MailChimp or Constant Contact. You want that. what does their reporting look like, and their, queries and reporting or filters or whatever you call them. Does it do volunteer management? Does it do membership if you're a membership-based organization? Most of them now allow for monthly giving and recurring setup giving, but does it allow for ACH, which is the automatic bank transfer, or does it have to have a credit card? Does it allow for those other apps like Samsung Pay and Google Pay and Apple Pay and, all of those things? All of them are getting better and better and better as we speak. They're always trying to improve. You just have to figure out which features you rely on most. Like, I know that Network for Good has text messaging, but a lot of people don't want to use text messaging. So it's of no value to them, right? So you really just have to compare what it is most important to you, and then go from there. And then always consider the cost for implementing it, like your data transfer costs, your monthly fees, if any, and then the processing fees, the credit card processing fees. You also want to consider tech support. Do you have to pay for tech support, or how does that come in? And if there is any contract. Are you bound for a year? Are you bound for 3 years? Is it month to month? You want to take a look at that, because 3 years is an awful long time. And if you're bound for 3 years, you're bound for 3 years, and they're not letting you out of it, right? So think about all of those things. These are the features to consider. I wrote them all down for you, okay? So when you get the PowerPoint, you can just take a look. Drip capabilities. I'd like to explain that. What is drip capability? Drip capability means that if something happens in the system, if someone makes a donation, most of them now will process an automated receipt saying your credit card was processed. But beyond that, is anything else triggered to happen automatically? So that if someone makes a gift, they get the automatic receipt, and then 2 days later they get a thank you, and then 4 weeks later they get something else, and then 2 weeks after that they get something else, right? Some systems have that drip functionality, others do not, right? So you want to take a look at that. You also want to look at their disbursement schedule. Do you get your money right away, or do you have to wait for it? And if you have to wait for it, how long do you have to wait for it? And if you have to wait for it, how easy is it to get it, right? All of those things you're wanting to look at. If you don't have a donor management system and you'd like to talk through, sort of this whole idea, you can let me know. But there are, and I'd be happy to talk to you about it. But really, if you have this checklist and you just start Googling a couple, you're going to learn pretty quickly, the range, the scope of everything that's out there. And then you're going to narrow it down pretty quickly to what you're looking for. Okay. Email marketing. What are some systems and practices? Okay, so I'd like to first talk about how you want to think about your email marketing and how you're communicating online. Email marketing, if you notice in this messaging slide here, email marketing, email updates are this is the word count for each of these kinds of communications, right? A good kind of word count. Emails should be between, at most 250 to 350 words. Now, if you think about the last newsletter you sent, how many words were there? How long was I scrolling to get to the bottom of that newsletter, right? I am on a mission to get people to stop talking about newsletters and start thinking about touch points or updates or engagement points. Because a newsletter is a hangover from pre-internet days when it made no sense to communicate constantly because you had to write something, print something, get envelopes, get stamps, and mail something. And it was very expensive. It could get very expensive. You couldn't communicate like that constantly, right? In today's world, we can. So why are we waiting 3 months to, update people? Oh, we have a quarterly newsletter. Well, I'm sorry, but in today's world, 3 months ago may as well be 10 years ago. Because I have heard so much about what's happened in the world in the last 3 months that what happened in your little organization 3 months ago is kind of irrelevant anymore, right? Monthly newsletters. Okay, that's a little better, right? But still, it's a month. And how many sections do you have? You have 7 different sections. I'm not going to read all that. I'm just not, right? But if you took those 7 sections and turned them into 7 days a week and sent me one little short email every day, I'd be far more likely to look at it than if you send me this thing that I have to look at 7 sections, right? Now, am I saying you should be emailing every day? No, but you get my gist, right? You can be emailing far more often. Nonprofits who email at least weekly get a far higher open rate than those that email once a month. Okay, so do not be afraid that you are inundating, that there will be donor fatigue. Okay, donor fatigue is a myth. It's not donor fatigue, it's bad content, right? If you have bad content, I don't want to hear from you. I don't care if it's once a week, once a month, or once a year. If it has no value to me, if it's not making me feel more engaged with the cause that I care about, it doesn't matter how often it comes. If your communications, if your email, if your whatever, your newsletters or whatever you call it, is all about you, like we did this and we did that and our people did this and our blah blah blahs did that, and it's just kind of a monologue of yeah. I don't want to hear it, right? You want to be thinking of how you're engaging people and how you're providing value to people. Think about, I have a husband who loves sports, right? That's a cause he cares about. He listens to it on the radio. He looks at it on his computer. He watches it on TV. He goes to sporting events when he can. He talks about it to people that he knows. Does he get sports fatigue? No, he doesn't. He can't get enough of it, right? Now, sports I could take or leave. But if you're talking to me about something to do with food insecurity, injustices in this world that, shouldn't happen, women's rights, homelessness, any social justice issue, give me more. I want to know what's going on. I want to know, and I don't get it because that's not what people are giving me. They're sending me stuff about the program they had yesterday, and that doesn't necessarily matter to me. Is it something that, yes, you have to share? Yes. But how else are you engaging your people so that you become the trusted source of all things in your cause area? So if you work in the arena of multiple sclerosis, If a new study comes out, I can be sure you're going to email it to me. Or that I can go right to your website and find it, right? If you are the person who is inspiring me to get more involved, telling me you need volunteers is not inspiring me to get more involved, right? Inspiring me to get more involved could be educating me on, the crisis at hand, right? It might be sharing inspirational quotes. It might be showing me a program 3 states away that had success because they had a core volunteer team who went out and did this thing in the neighborhood. And I'd be like, ooh, well, why don't we do that here? And then I have to say, well, we don't do it here because no one's doing it. So maybe I should be doing it. Right? It didn't come from you saying I should be doing it. It came from you showing the success that someone else had from doing it. Right? So you want to begin thinking about communicating in a way that is engaging to the people so that they find value in what you're sharing. Somewhere I have a slide, have a reason to invade my inbox. There it is. Have a reason to invade my inbox. Inform me of something. Okay, that's what most nonprofits spend their time doing. They give information, right? But you can be educating, you can be inspiring, you can be engaging me to learn about me and what concerns me. You can send surveys, right? You're engaging to learn about your community, right? You can spotlight volunteers or donors or staff people. You can share impact stories and reports and data. You can appreciate those who are already involved, and you can ask for money. Now, if you think about your email communications in this way, and every single email communication has one purpose, you're not trying to do all of these things in one time and therefore sending a newsletter with 7 different sections in it. Okay? So let's go back. Okay, so I got ahead of myself. I just get so excited. I don't know what order I put these slides in. It all makes sense to me. Okay, so I want you to think for a minute, though. Okay, that's email, right? You're not only talking to people on email, you're also talking to people via social media, right? So how are you talking on social media? Do you have a hashtag? Do you have a hashtag that inspires your donor base or motivates your donor base or talks about your cause in a way that is easily remembered and that I can follow and that makes sense to me and gets me everything to do with that hashtag? What is your hashtag becomes a motto or a tagline, right? Few more words or a tagline or a motto. If you go on to Twitter or X or whatever they're calling it now, and I'm not recommending any of these things, these social media platforms. We'll talk a minute about how you decide what you use. It becomes 10 or 15 words. Facebook, Instagram is 15 to 30. And now that can be a little bit longer. People are telling a little bit longer stories there. LinkedIn has even gotten longer, probably 50, 50 words in a LinkedIn post. Online donation form, the story you're telling is, 100 words maybe, because by the time someone gets to your online donation form, you don't want them reading, you want them clicking, right? To give you their credit card. But you got to have something, there. Email updates, and then direct mail is far more words, right? Now, your messaging for a direct mail piece should be 4 pages. Now, 4 pages doesn't mean 1,000 words. It means you spread it out and make it easy to read and have 2-line paragraphs and have lots of white space and things like that. But you're telling a longer story and pulling people in, okay? So think about that and how you tell your stories and how you share your messaging. And as far as word count, because if you have a document with examples of all of these and you put it in your Google Drive or your Dropbox or whatever, then your board members and all of your volunteers can have access to that good material as well, so they can use it, right? That becomes, when you pull all of these things together, the different ways you talk about who you are and what you do and where you hold all of your, data and all of that, that's your case. That's your case for support. That's your case statement, however you want to talk about it, that everybody can draw from, right? So you have one sheets and you have brochures, you have things of different lengths because people are going to encounter you in different ways, right? And they're going to want to know different things. And so you want to be ready when that happens and have that readily, easily available, stored online somewhere so you can get it out into cyberspace when you need to. As far as email marketing, there are different kinds. The most popular tend to be MailChimp and Constant Contact. If your donor management system doesn't have a built-in email marketing, I would definitely recommend, a lot of them will integrate with one of these, but if they don't, then go and find one of these, right? Be sure you're emailing people through an email marketing platform. Otherwise, you're going to be marked as spam and it's going to get very messy and nobody's going to be getting your content. If we think about all of these things, we're thinking about how we're engaging with our donors. This center bullet here, right? You want a cycle. You don't want to always do one thing, right? Because you're going to lose some people if you only do one thing. So you want to be thinking of it as a cycle that basically goes through the, welcome here, right? You ask, you thank, you report impact, and you repeat that, right? So once you've welcomed someone, once someone comes into your audience, you welcome them, and then you bring them in, right? Now, it depends where they come in. If their first encounter with you is a gift, then you start with a thank you, right? If not, then you start with this report impact section, which is all of these educate, share, engage, inspire, right? Then you go up, and after you've done quite a bit of that, you ask for money, then you thank them, and then that cycle repeats. So you're doing all of these other 7 things, all of these things in this report impact share stories section before you ask for money again. If you follow this pattern, you will not have donor fatigue because you're engaging in ways that people appreciate and value what you're giving them. And how often you do those things determines really how often you can ask. So if you're sending quarterly communications, you can ask no more than about once a year. If you're sending monthly communications, you can ask 4 times a year. If you're sending weekly communications, you could probably ask every other month, if not more, right? Because you've done all the things that make it more engaging for me as a donor, and I get why you're asking for money then. And if I give, I give. If I don't, I'm not going to get mad at you because you've spent an awful lot of time showing me everything else before you said, hey, and money makes all of this happen. Okay? The other thing you want to think about when you're communicating online, whether it is through social media or email, or even direct mail, which is not online, it's through the postal service. But when you're communicating, you want to be thinking of who's your audience, right? And Russ Allen Prince and Karen Marufile a long time ago proposed this idea that I think holds value. It at least gets us thinking differently about our audience. A big thing in today's world is to talk about your donor avatar or whatever, right? Like, who is your ideal donor? But what you want to be thinking about inside of that is there's probably not just one ideal donor or typical donor, because different things motivate different people to give. So these 7 faces of philanthropy dig into some of that. Some people, and I mean, this is certainly true, this second one, which is devout, people who are devout, you're appealing to a moral imperative. Religion, giving to religious institutions is the highest giving in the United States of America, right? So this is a very valid face of philanthropy, right? It might not fit ours, but it is a valid one, right? The investor, these are the folks who, talk, very logically about, well, if we invest now in education, it'll stop the crime rates and it'll stop to this and it'll stop to that. And so I'm investing in education, right? It's very reasoned kind of thinking. There's the communitarian who just, they want to be part of the community. They want to be something bigger than themselves. They rely heavily on this donor testimonial. What are other people saying and thinking and doing? They're very much impacted by their community. The altruist believes that, they are doing a good thing. They are a good person. They have to help the less fortunate, right? They rely heavily on recipient testimonials. Now, this one, I think you have to be very careful, because you want to make sure you're not perpetuating saviorism attitudes and things like that, and victimizing those who should not be victimized, right? You have to do that carefully, but there is validity in that kind of approach. People want to help people. Look at GoFundMe. Oh my goodness, people are helping people. There's no 501c3. There's no, credibility. We've been around for so many years and we've served so many people. Nope, it's a sob story. It's a sob story, and it makes, thousands, if not millions of dollars, right? The repayer, these are the give back, the pay forward, someone did a good thing for me, so I have to do a good thing for someone else. The socialite, these are the folks who like to go and volunteer in groups and have service days. And this is where giving days come in. They're part of this bigger picture, right, of Giving Tuesday. Some people like to give on Giving Tuesday because their $20 is matched with millions of other people's $20. And then there's the dynast, who it's the proper thing to do. Our family is philanthropic, and these are the folks who set up the trust funds and make sure that their kids are involved in philanthropy at a young age and all of those things. And then you're involving the whole family when you're talking to them, right? So if you first think about the different purposes of email and then think about the different reasons people give, you're going to start creating very different communications for your social media and your email content, okay? Because you're thinking of what we learned in 5th grade or 4th grade: who, what, when, where, why, how. For every single communication, whether it's social media or email or direct mail, you want to make sure that you've been thinking through this: who, what, when, where, why, how, before you send that out, okay? Oh, covered a lot there. Now let's dig into the social media campaigns. Who's on what? Who knows? Who's on first? Who's on second? These things are all over the place. They're pervasive. You cannot be on every single one all the time, right? And if you're just sharing the same exact thing across all the platforms, you're doing it wrong. So don't do it, right? Pick 1 or 2 where you believe your primary audience is. Start there and use those and get really, really good at those, and then consider adding another one, right? Which one is most aligned with your mission? which one is most aligned with where your audience tends to be, your donor audience tends to be, right? And what communication style do they want? If you have a very small following on social media and nobody is really engaging, people aren't sharing your posts, people aren't commenting, people aren't asking questions, you have to ask yourself a few questions. One is, am I doing it right? Am I asking questions? Am I inviting comments? Or am I using it as a bulletin board? Social media is about building community, and to build community, you have to ask questions, you have to invite things, you have to be maybe provocative, maybe, you know, whatever. You've got to get people interested and engaged, right? It's not a megaphone to just create a monologue. And that's how a lot of people use social media, right? I love the story of one organization that I've worked with downstate who is a small rural arts organization. And they post things like, share your favorite love story and we'll create a playlist. And then they create a Spotify playlist to share their community's favorite love stories around Valentine's Day, right? They say, take a picture of your favorite art piece in your home, whether it's because your grandkid made it or because you bought it at auction or whatever. Post it, share it, let us all know, because art is art and we all love art, right? They ask anybody who had Christmas lights up to submit their address, and they created a map so that people could go and see all the beautiful Christmas lights. Right? Those are things that happen on social media that build community, right? Jessica, I saw a hand raised and then a not raised. Did you have a question?
No, it wasn't a hand raise. It was a clap for your statement around something that you said about social. Oh, not using social media as a bulletin board, but like you actually asking questions and engaging people and making it social. So I was just applauding.
Okay, great. So, thank you. Sorry about that. All right. So where you can think about where your audience is based on their age or what you do. Is what you do TikTok content? Is it active? Is it goofy? Is it provocative? Is it something that's that's video worthy? Or is it LinkedIn content, a bit more serious? We need people to be thinking about these issues, right? Or is it Twitter worthy, which is short spurts of aggravation or excitement, or right, short announcement kinds of things that can get people triggered, right? That's the sense that I get on Twitter, right? So Twitter triggers, LinkedIn makes you think, TikTok makes you dance, right? Where are your people and what is your content? If you're putting the same thing on all of these, then you're not doing it right, I promise you. So if you're not doing it right and you're not getting engagement, the question is, do you really need to? Or is your audience elsewhere? And are there better ways for you to engage? And if it's very important for you to be on social media, then the question is, how are we going to pay someone who knows what they're doing to do it? Because if you pay someone who knows what they're doing to do it, it will be well worth your investment. But if you're trying to do it amidst the other 900 things you're doing because you're the chief everything officer and it all falls on you, it's probably not going to work. Unless that's where you put all of your focus to the detriment of something else. And hey, maybe something else needs to be deterred, right? Maybe you should let something else go and focus on social media, right? But a couple things to consider. how far is your reach and how far does your reach need to be? If you're a food pantry in a local community, the likelihood that you need to reach very far on social media is slim, because there's a food pantry in the next town over, and the next town over, and the next town over. There's a food pantry in every community. So how are you best building community? Is it through social media? Now, you build community somewhere else and you use your Facebook page to give updates, that works, right? Because you know the 75 people who are your volunteers, that's how you communicate best with them, through social media group or through a Facebook post. But if you're thinking you're using social media to hunt down the next Mackenzie Scott, that's just not realistic. So consider carefully if social media is one of the best tools for you or if it's something else. Okay? If you are using social media, these are some things that you can do. Think about awareness months, weeks, or days. But don't just post that today is whatever day. That says nothing. It has to relate to your mission. If you're not relating it to your mission or your cause area, then there is no need to post about it. To tell me today is Juneteenth, or to tell me this month is Pride Month, or to tell me next week is 4th of July or whatever. Yeah, I have a calendar too. I don't need you to tell me that, right? But if you're able to take whatever the cause is and relate it to what you're doing and why you're doing it or how it impacts what you do, then do it, right? If you are working in the area of domestic violence, there is a domestic violence awareness month. That is a perfect thing to do, right? You should do a lot on social media during that month because it makes sense, right? But now, let's say you work in the question of food insecurity and it's domestic violence month. There are correlations. So you could do some educating around how food insecurity can often lead to domestic violence or has a correlation, right? And talk about how by addressing food insecurity, it could, in some instances, help with domestic violence issues. Because, that's one of the primary stressors that leads to, now, I'm not saying that people who are hungry beat people up. Please, I don't want to oversimplify either of the issues, but I use it as an example to say you want to be able to correlate or make connections and say, how can we use this instance on a calendar to drive home something important? Because the same holds true for Giving Tuesday. Don't tell me it's Giving Tuesday, so I should give you money, or that it's December 31st, so I should give you money. Calendar days are not motivations or reason to give. Tie it to your mission, give me some purpose, and then I'll think about giving you money. Piggyback on existing hashtags. Don't make up your own hashtag just because it's clever, because that's not how hashtags work. That's a tagline, that's a motto, it's not a hashtag. Hashtags are things that lots of people follow, and if you get them right, then you can start attracting new people to your cause because they follow that hashtag, right? This is a list of 79 hashtags to piggyback on. Share stats with questions. So if you say, 1 in 6 children have a learning disability and struggle to read, you can then say, do you have a personal story you'd like to share about how you learned about your learning disability, or how long did it take for you to be diagnosed, or what was the difference in the world for you when you were diagnosed? Like, ask a question connected to the statistic. Create a quiz. Canva has a quiz creator. People love quizzes. The number of stupid quizzes that come across my social media feed is astounding, right? People love quizzes. They'll quiz themselves about anything. How good a cook are you? Are you a genius? Right? Like all of these things people quiz themselves on. Find some things around your cause area, put out some quizzes. Canva makes it easy. And we're gonna, if you don't know what Canva is, we're gonna talk about it real quick in a minute. This post, not quite a quiz, but these folks posted something along the lines of, if you are an adult and don't want people to know you are playing Pokemon, we will rent our shelter dogs to you for $5 an hour so it looks like you're walking your dog. They got so many people coming to them to rent their dogs. Some of them were playing Pokemon, some of them probably weren't, but it was a very clever way to get attention of people. They had to borrow dogs from other shelters to rent them out, right? They got their dogs walked and they raised money, right? Very clever, very clever. You've got to think of things that are going to engage people in a new and different way. No idea is a bad idea at the beginning. Like, get as wild and nonsensical as you can, and then make sense out of it. That's how these things come about, right? There was one, oops, I missed one. There was one where someone created a quiz on the countries in Africa. And at the end of the quiz, it led to their report on the education of girls in Africa. So they used the quiz mentality of Americans to then pinpoint basically how ignorant many Americans are of the countries in Africa, to then say ignorance is a bad thing, and that's why education for women is important in Africa. And they had so many downloads of their report, it was, it was very good, right? So not every connection is obvious. You have to make those connections, and sometimes the less obvious the connection is, the more people get intrigued because they're like, wait, what? Like, what's this about? Okay. The other thing you want to do is make sure that you have updated all of your charity watchdog sites. So can you be trusted? That's what charity watchdog sites are about. Okay. So Charity Navigator, that's on the left-hand side. Used to be that Charity Navigator didn't evaluate really small nonprofits, but they do now under Charity Navigator and Compass. So make sure that you go, claim your profile, update it, put everything you can in it so that you get a good rating. Now, Charity Navigator rates you on the reports that you turn in to judge you. Charity Navigator judges how good of a nonprofit you are, basically. How good are your impacts versus how much money you spend and how you manage it all, and that sort of thing. So go and take a look at your profile and get as close to a 4-star profile as you can. GuideStar just gives you a seal of transparency. So it is not rating how you spend your money or what your mission is and what your outcomes are. It's just saying you're willing to share. You're willing to tell the world what you do and how you do it with how much money. So technically, theoretically, there's no reason everyone can't have the highest level of the seal of transparency. Getting a 4-star rating on Charity Navigator could be harder. There's all kinds of pieces to that, right? But a seal of transparency, to get to the platinum seal, is just adding stuff in. And if you don't have that stuff, like a strategic plan, then please do a strategic plan. because you should have a strategic plan. And some people think, oh, strategic plans are expensive, etc. If you feel that strategic plans are too expensive, I hate to do commercials, but I do strategic plans with folks at a very reasonable price. Let me know and we'll figure something out, right? Because you should get this platinum seal of transparency, okay? You want to be able to say at least one metric demonstrating your progress and results. If you don't have a metric, go get a metric, because you should have a metric, right? So go through, claim your profile if you haven't, get stuff loaded, and look at what it takes to get a platinum seal as quickly as possible. It does make a difference. I have organizations that get this done, and all of a sudden, not massive gifts, but little gifts trickle in from people they don't know how they connected. And do they know for sure that this person came to them through this? Sometimes they do, because people can give right through these websites now. There are give to this organization. There are donate buttons directly connected, right? So it's a good thing to have, and it's good for your grant writing as well, because a lot of foundations will look at these things before they give to you. All right, so yeah, get to that platinum seal. And this is the Charity Navigator one. Try to get 90 or above. If you get to good, you're still doing really well. What you don't want is the very poor or needs improvement. So do everything you can to get out of that. Oh, these are the 4 areas that Charity Navigator holds you accountable in. Okay. Then there's the give.org, the BBC, the Better Business Bureau's Wives Giving Alliance. This one is, they have 20 standards. Please do not ask for them to review you until you are sure that you will meet those standards, because they post it, right? And if it's bad, and it sits there for 2 years, right? So review the standards in these areas, take a look, see how close you are, and then you submit your stuff to see whether or not. And I think there is a budget limit on this, if I'm not mistaken, if they haven't changed that. There was for a long time a budget limit on this. So I think you had to be at least $1 million organization. But double check that. I'm not sure anymore. These are always changing a little bit here and there. And then this is one that a lot of people don't know about, but is becoming more and more prominent and very, very easy to use. And this is a question of whether or not you're respected by your community. It's called greatnonprofits.org. And basically, I call it a Yelp for nonprofits. Okay. You get your volunteers, your donors, your program participants, whoever, to go on and leave you a review. But the first thing that you do is you go and you claim that profile, make sure everything's up to date, and then you start getting people to go on and leave you a review, just like they would on Amazon or on Yelp or on Google. Okay, greatnonprofits.org. Then there's the tools of Google's for nonprofits. And this is a question of whether or not you're visible. So you do all the updates to your website, you get your social media going, and people see you on social media and go to visit your website, and your website stinks. That doesn't work, right? So make sure your website's good. Make sure your social media presence is what you need it to be for what you do. And then figure out where you land in Google. Are you visible? Can people find you? That's the question when it comes to Google for nonprofits. If you are a nonprofit organization and you do not have a Google account, I would get one, because then you got the Gmail and then you got the whole suite, and you can get analytics. You can also set up Google Alerts. And you can set up Google Alerts to find out who's talking about your cause area. You'll get all an alert of what articles, what social media posts, right? Google scans the cyber world and puts it all in your inbox as often as you want it, right? So you can do it once a day, you can do it immediately, you can do it once a week, I think, right? You should put your organization's name in to make sure you see anything that anybody is talking about you, but also your cause area. And then that's where you're going to get more content to share with your people so that you become the trusted source of all things in your cause area. You can also do it on geographic location. So if you want to know what's going on in your community, you can get alerts for everything in your geographic region, and you can do it on keywords. So this is how you can set it up. Google ad grants. Google ad grants are great if you know how to use Google Ads. If you don't know how to use Google Ads, Google ad grants aren't really worth the time it takes to get them. Okay, but if you have a marketing person, if they don't know about Google ad grants, they should be able to quickly learn it if they are a marketing person, right? Google ad grants is $10,000 of AdWords, and you use those AdWords in certain ways in a marketing world that then let you get your message out to new people for free. Okay, so you don't have to pay for the ads. All right, now this is good if your cause goes well beyond your geographic region. These are good if you know there are more people in your area that would love you if they only knew you existed, right? But you really do need, now there are workshops that you can go and attend to learn more about it. There's also an organization called Community Boost. And Community Boost has a low entry point program where they help organizations figure out their Google ad grants. I think it's like a $10 a month subscription or something to join their community. So check out Community Boost. They have a couple different levels of programs depending on what you want to do. But if you really want to pursue Google ad grants, I'd check that out. You want your Google for Nonprofits account so that you can get Google Analytics, okay? Because that's where you're going to understand if what you're doing out in cyberspace is working, right? And if not, how, figuring out how to fix it. There's also something less known, and that is LinkedIn for Nonprofits. Check out LinkedIn for Nonprofits. They have a program. They have, you can apply, you get some grant, some ad money there too, an ad grant you can get through LinkedIn for Nonprofits. If you think you have an audience, and, reality is you probably do. If you're looking for volunteers, if you're looking for board members, if you're looking for donors, anybody on here looking for those three things? Nah, we don't need any of those three things, right? If you're looking for those three things, LinkedIn is a place where those people exist and are looking for causes to support. So check out LinkedIn for Nonprofits. You can also think about corporate giving, volunteer experience days, matching grants, what's the word? Payroll deduction kinds of programs. There are now platforms that allow you to do this, right? And so you want to check out Benevity and Groundswell. There's also one called Brighter Funds. There's also cyber grants. There's all kinds. There's just all kinds. I put these two out there. Check them out. This is where a company goes on, creates an account, and their employees can sign up to make payroll deductions and things like that. Okay. Another thing that you might want to look at in that area is, I just lost. The giving block is something where you can go on and be ready to accept cryptocurrency and gifts of stock and things like that. There's the Giving Block, and there is every.org. So I don't think I have slides for those. Sorry. Yeah, I don't. And then the other website you want to check out is freewill.com. Freewill.com is a place where you can be put onto a list for people who are creating wills through their website. And, you can be one of their partners so people can find you if they want. And then there's templates you can use. And, so freewill.com is the other thing you want to think about. And if you are not a member of TechSoup, become a member of TechSoup. TechSoup is I think it's still $50 a year, or maybe $50. Maybe it's $50 a year. And they have all kinds of discounts on all kinds of technology for nonprofits. They also have other tools and things you can use, but TechSoup is a place you want to look. Oh, there's Community Boost. Yes. So check out Community Boost. Okay. One other thing that you want to think about is petition sites. If you have a cause area that is in any way amenable to some type of a petition, and this you might need to get a little creative, but can you think up a reason why you'd want people to show support for a cause in a petition? To say, we want to take this to the mayor so that we can make a change in our community. And so you can put a petition up on one of these iPetition, Care2, or Change.org, and they have databases that they promote, so it broadens your reach. These are particular causes. Not every cause you can write a petition about, but if you're thinking, oh, I wish we could get a petition to show the sort of support, check out one of these websites, see if it might be worth putting out a petition, because you can get new potential donors. The other thing, if you're looking for new potential donors, is if your donor management system does not have peer-to-peer functionality, look for a peer-to-peer fundraising technology. I think if your donor management software doesn't have it, you need a new donor management software. So look there first, but there are some standalone peer-to-peer platforms. That's another way to sort of get potentially new donors by people reaching out to their circles. And then, of course, Canva. I'd be interested in a show of hands or a chat. Is there anyone here who does not know or use Canva and needs an explanation? No, I'm not seeing any new messages in the chat. So everybody knows Canva. Yeah, so get Canva if you don't have it. Figure out how to use it if you don't know how, or hire someone or get a volunteer. There are lots of people out there who love Canva. Make use of Canva to upgrade your materials for sure. Oh, I see I am looking at the chat here. Oh, someone has to, okay. So, okay, see, I can't do this. I'm very bad at looking at the chat while I look at the thing. 7 new messages. Okay, yes, everyone loves Canva. Everybody loves Canva. Okay, the next thing would be the AI. Oh, the world of AI. AI is evil. Our brains are exploding. AI is evil. No, AI is not evil if you use it well. I think AI is a thesaurus on steroids, right? And it is a quick, more refined Google search in many ways, right? If you are not using AI, I really do suggest that you explore it, ask it a couple questions, create some prompts, see what it gives you, and then edit edit, 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 right? And confirm. If you're asking them for research, there's a whole AI functionality inside ChatGPT that allows you to do market research. If you're doing market research and that sort of thing, double check on any data statistics it gives you. I Googled a couple of weeks ago, I was doing something and I Googled if there were any wars between the Korean War and the Vietnam War. And my top Google response now are all generative AI, right? That's what comes up at the top of Google now. And that whatever came up talked about how the Korean War followed the Vietnam War, right? Like big error, like, right? So if you're looking for facts, don't trust AI. But if you're looking for new ideas for how to say something, for a new word, these things are great. Like I was working with a nonprofit in a strategic planning process, and they had some core values that they were working on, but they didn't want to list 4 different core values. They wanted one word. And so we put in those 4 words and said, can you give us 1 or 2 word thing, phrases that mean the same thing? And AI spit out all kinds of stuff. And then, it usually spits it out in groups of 10, right? And we found 1 word from one of the things and 1 word from another and created a whole new thing, right? So should you rely on AI to, write everything for you? I don't think so. But can it give you some really good starter points? The hardest thing about writing anything is the blank page, right? So let it create a template for you that you then edit. Storylab AI is actually, it has a price point, right? But it can really help you with some of your content marketing. So it could be worth thinking about. Another tool that you might want to consider is checking out Memory Fox. Memory Fox is a tool that helps you capture videos from your people, right? So they can go on the platform and they record a video and it gets stored there, and then you're able to access it and use it. So check out Memory Fox as well. Okay, so I think I have covered as much as I have today. There is so much out there in the world of technology and cyberspace, and it's changing every single day. So it's hard to keep up with everything that's out there. But I hope that today's conversation has helped you to see how you want to think differently about how you're communicating in cyberspace, what your digital footprint is, and then how you can use it to help your fundraising. Oh, 1 more that I should have put in here and I forgot. Hemingway Editor. Write that down when you listen to this recording or whatever. Hemingway Editor is an online platform that you can go in, you can paste your content for your appeal letter, and it will tell you the grade level and what things are too difficult to understand and what's jargon and all of that. And you can edit it right there and watch your grade level drop. It's a great tool for fundraising content. All right, so that is all I have. Does anyone have any questions or comments or
Janet,
things you would like to talk? Yeah.
Sorry, we have a couple of questions in the chat. One is about direct mail. Something about 4 pages. Maybe that was the max, direct mail, 4 pages. She's wondering, are you also talking about things like year-end campaign appeals?
Yes. Yeah, it's not the max, it's the minimum. You'd like your appeal to be 4 pages because statistically they work better. But again, lots of white space, a PS, lots of starts and stops, incomplete sentences, 2 line or 3 line paragraphs, right? The wide margins. But having two pieces of paper in your hand, even if you're not reading it, you're going to read the beginning to make sure your name is there. Are they talking to me, or am I getting something addressed to me that has my husband's name on it, which really drives me crazy, right? Is there a PS who signed this letter, right? The more you're just to do those two things, to look at the dear who and the from who and the PS takes time. And the longer I hold the pieces of paper in my hand and turn them over, the more likely I am to catch a bolded point or an underlined point and take a look at it and start reading from there, right? Very few people read the whole thing, but psychologically, if I get 4 pages of an urgent story telling me that there is a cause that I care about, that I need to know something about, if it's done in this big of a, paragraph, it couldn't be that important, right? So 4 pages. I hope that answers the question. Definitely your year-end appeal, but should you send more than one direct mail piece? Yes, you should. If you can at all fit it into your budget, at least twice a year, if not 4 times a year, especially to those for whom you have no email. But even to those for whom you have an email, because I might get your email in the morning and I'm in a hurry and I'm on my way to something. And so I don't read the whole thing, and then it falls to the bottom of my inbox and goes to the next page and I don't see it. And I keep a clean inbox, but sometimes those things get missed and, I never get to it. And then something comes in the mail. I'll look at it and it'll remind me I got that email, and that letter better tell me, it better have a QR code or tell me how to go online to give you money, because although I'm happy to get that direct mail piece, if I have to go and find an envelope and a check and a stamp, you're not getting my money, right? For some people, that's what they need. They need the envelope and the check and a stamp. Other people not. So you want crossover with all of your communications. Omni-channel communications is the best.
Janet, we have a second question about greatnonprofits.org and how, if it's possible to manage unfavorable reviews that folks leave on there.
Yeah. So I am not sure if you can turn off reviews. My fundamental question is, what makes it unfavorable? And if it's true, are you addressing it? And are you addressing it publicly? Because if someone has said it, if someone has taken the time to go to Great Nonprofits to say something, that means other people are probably talking about it too. If in the rare chance it's some disgruntled employee or something, then you can make comments, but it's kind of that, there's one sort of thing, no PR is bad PR sort of approach to it, but also if there is bad PR and you address it in a public facing way, you gain some credibility. So, but specifically whether or not can you turn a comment off, I am not sure. I'm not sure. You'd have to check that out. Any other questions? Thoughts, comments? Janet, you're an idiot. This makes no sense. Or, why didn't you talk about this? Like, I expected to hear this and you didn't talk about it at all. No?
Well, I think it went great. People seem to think so too. Aside, I put a link to a really quick survey about the program in the chat. If people have a second to fill that out, that'd be great. I'll also include it in the email later with the slides and the video recording.
Great. Well, if there are no questions, thank you all for coming and for listening. And I hope you walk away with something. And if you have questions, my contact information is on the PowerPoint. You can follow up with me. All right.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming, and thank you so much, Janet.
Thank you.
Thank you.